Hey there, what is happening, everybody? I'm excited because this month we're actually, I'm introducing you to a whole new, I guess we'll call it a series for the month of May. So, the theme for May is going to be goal setting and business organization. We're going to go back to the basics, having that mindset of what it was like to be a new consultant. So, if you're watching this and if you're joining us for the first time, if you're seeing me for the first time, thank you so much for clicking play and hanging out with us. If you're on Team Faith and Soul, otherwise, hey, you guys, I'm excited to kick off a new month. But here's the thing, whether you've been around for a while or you're recently joining and you're either rejoining, you reinstated, or you're a new consultant, you're new to the Scentsy game, believe it or not, this whole month is going to be for all of us. Because the fact of the matter is that I feel like that almost every quarter of the year, at least definitely more than once a year for me, multiple times honestly through the year, I feel like I have to not only hit the reset button, but I have to refresh and pivot. Pivot is by far one of my favorite words to use, but I have to pivot. And especially I would all in full transparency in the last like 2-3 months in my business, I would say that I've had to pivot a lot more than I even really thought I would have to be doing. But that's okay because that's business. That's life, right? A lot of times we have to pivot. But today we're going to be talking and breaking down a little bit, keeping it super simple as I try to, but breaking down 4 key points out how we can set smart goals and for the most part stick to them. Go ahead and if you haven't already, pause this video and grab a pen and paper. And if you have any questions or maybe perhaps tips, feel free by all means necessary to drop them in the comments below. So whether you have questions or input or anything that you have tip wise, feel free to always share. And right before we dive in, one way that you can definitely help me out is if you give a thumbs up to this video and then make sure and subscribe to this channel so that way you're not going to miss out on any of the new videos to come for this month. So let's go ahead and get started and dive in. So again, we're talking today in this month about goal setting, business organization, how we can set obtainable goals and work towards them. So number one, be specific. So when it comes to setting smart goals, you want the clearer you are about the goals that you have, the more obtainable they can be. I am one to say, and I will say this right out the gate before we dive into the rest of this training today, is that I, believe it or not, I am the least organized person that I know. I have moments it's funny because I feel like I'm not on one side or the other. Like I'm looking around my desk space right now and it's what I love calling organized chaos. For the most part, I know where everything's at. It's like some things are organized, some things are not. You have to do what works best for you. Like I said, I have moments on my day to day where I am organized. Like I've got alarms set for things. I have things that are placed on my calendar that remind me of things that are happening on a day to day through the week. I don't really, for the most part, like there's some things that I have that like following up with customers and emailing now out my customers every other day. Like those things I'm getting a lot better on as far as consistency. But there are other things that I constantly have to, again, pivot and rethink. And one of those is going to be my goals, whether it's for the year and then we bring it in a little bit closer and a little more simpler than that, right? Because if I think about like what my ultimate goal is for the Scentsy year, because believe it or not, the Scentsy fiscal year just kicked off May 1st. So for someone like myself that has a big goal for that year, because there's an award that coincides with the Scentsy fiscal year, if I think about that, that in itself can not only be intimidating, but it's like, how am I going to get there, right? But if I dial it back and I'm like, okay, how can I break it down into smaller attainable goals so then that way I can make sure that I'm achieving and working towards my bigger long-term goals. So again, the more clear you are on your goals, get specific. So what do I mean when I say get specific? For example, that could be instead of saying that you want more sales, So if I ask you, hey, what is your goal for May? Like, what do you want to focus on this summer or during the month of May? And then you tell me, Megan, I want to make more sales. In fact, believe it or not, I actually just got off of a Spark training call. If you haven't, a little nugget plug in there. If you haven't, as a Scentsy consultant, tried or showed up and done any of the Spark session calls, I highly recommend it. I just came off of one. And funny enough, today we did talk about increasing PRV, increasing our sales. So, and also hopefully I don't do too much of that because I did just get off of talking off of a Zoom. So, all right. So instead of saying I want more sales, what if instead we flip the script and we said instead, I want to reach 500 PRV by the end of this month. Or maybe perhaps if you're just joining, you're like, you know what? I want to reach 250 PRV by the end of this month. Whatever that goal looks like for you, whatever your PRV goal is for the end of the month, that's what I mean when I say be specific, get clear about your goals. What is the ultimate goal for you at the end of this month? And I want you to write that down. Okay. Number 2, we're going to break that goal down. So that is your big goal, right? Because we don't want to focus on the fiscal year. We don't want to focus on maybe the quarter. Let's just focus on for the month of May, because as of right now, we're only 1 week into the month. So there's still plenty of time for us to achieve that goal that we're setting for the month. And it doesn't matter, honestly, when you're watching this, it's whatever your goal is for the month. Let's talk about breaking that further down. So breaking it down, what does that look like? So that's going to be big goals, right? Sometimes big goals can feel overwhelming. That's basically what I just said, right? That I have a big goal to achieve for the fiscal year. So for Scentsy, if you didn't already know this, that basically means from May 1st until the end of April, that is Scentsy's year, right? So that's their calendar year. So I have this big goal that I want to reach between now and then, right? But I can't think like, oh my gosh, how am I going to work all the way up to that big goal? No, I have to dial it back. I know that I have a goal for every month. And then I have a goal, because I'm breaking it down further, I have a goal for every week. So what does that look like? So instead of feeling overwhelming and focus on the entire month, we're going to break it down week to week. So for example, one of the things that could look like is breaking it into smaller weekly tasks. So that can mean a whole number of things. So for example, we have a couple of new things that just released, right? So we've got the Mother's Day collection. We have the Star Wars collection. We have an incredible summer themed whip box as well. We'll just stick with those things. So those things are right now that are brand new and they're out, right? Oh, and we've got, I don't want to mess this up. I'm just going to say the petals. We've got the petals collection. There's another word I'm missing, so forgive me on that. But there's a collection. It's the petals collection. So it's blue fragrance flowers and it's a themed wax bar bundle. So those things we can be more specific about and letting and reaching out to our customers and letting them know that, right? Other small, simple tasks that we can have goal-wise for the week is that I want to not only book a party, well, actually rewind, should have already booked that party, because my thing is what's important is when I say book parties, you really want to, like if I say, hey, I want you to work on booking a party, that means I want you to talk to your customer and book a party for the next month, because that's actually what we call front loading your calendar. That is something that I have actually worked really hard on this year, getting back into the groove of, because I find that when I front load my calendar, I'm not grasping at straws by the middle of the month, trying to reach my goal that I've set for myself by the end of the month. That can be really stressful and it takes up a lot of time. And let's be honest, like a lot of times I will hyper focus on that and I'm wasting my time. And time is of the essence, right? Especially when we have a big goal that we're trying to attain by the end of the month. So front loading your calendar. So by now, like for example, I had somebody that I talked to last month and she's like, hey, I want to support you. I want to book a party. It's been a while. I was like, great. Let's book a date. So an obtainable goal for myself is to have an active party by the 15th. I want to have a party that I have and I'm closing out by the 15th. Why is that important? So in my monthly goal, let's just say hypothetically, as a consultant, my goal was to hit 500 PRV by the end of May, okay? what I want to make sure and do that I have is a party that is booked and closed out by the 15th. Why do I say that? Because an active party now is 250 PRV. So what's so awesome about that is that if I have somebody that I've booked a party, no matter what party style that looks like, if I have somebody that's hosted and booked a party, we've had it, and it runs for a couple of days or maybe a week, if I make sure that that party is done by the 15th, and my goal for that party is to hit 250 minimum, guess what? That means that I'm already halfway by the 15th to that 500 PRV goal by the end of the month. Woo, right? So if I have a party and I knock out that 250 PRV, oh my goodness, that means that I'm so much more closer to reaching that goal by the end of the month. So that's what I mean by breaking it down. So I want you to decide, what is your goal? What is your PRV, your sale goal that you want to hit by the end of May? I want you to write that down. And then what I want you to do from there is, whether you're like me and you need a calculator, judgment-free zone here, because your girl just doesn't, the math is not mathing over here, okay? But if you're a mathematician, by all means, knock yourself out. But I want you to take that goal that you set for yourself, sale PRV wise, by end of the month, and I want you to divide it out by the number of weeks in the month, okay? That, friends, is going to be your weekly goal. If you're like me, I love a good calendar. This is not actually the calendar that I have for my PRV goals. This is the calendar that I have for you guys for when I'm doing the training. But it looks like this. I love Canva, so I was able to, I think you can print off from Google as well, but get yourself a calendar, whether it's a book, whether it's on your phone. A lot of times I'm a paper and pen person, especially when it comes to things to do with my Scentsy business. But I want you to get a calendar no matter what that looks like for you. And with your calendar, I want you to write at the end of the month your overall PRV goal, right? But for every week leading up into that point, I want you to write down, I guess at the end, yeah, the end of every week, I want you to write down how much PRV you need per week to make sure that you hit that goal, right? So that's where we're starting. That's just the start. Ooh, I'm like almost lost my notes, y'all. I just had to wing it. With this spicy brain today and my Vietnamese coffee, y'all don't want me to just wing it. Bullet points for the win. See? That's my bullet points right there with my glittery pen. Okay, so we're coming back. So we talked about breaking it down, bigger goals, right? Breaking it down on, because it can feel overwhelming, breaking it down on a week-to-week basis. So number three, we're going to set a deadline. So we've set our goal for the month. We've broken it down on a week-to-week basis, right? And by the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be PRV sales focused. It could mean maybe you're wanting to grow your team. Maybe you're wanting to sponsor more people. So what would that look like? You could say, by the end of the month, I want to sponsor 4 people. We're talking big goals here, right? I want to sponsor 4 people. So what does that mean? That means that every single week, you want to have, I would say, at least 10 or more conversations per week with potential people that could join up. Or maybe you're wanting, for me personally, I know that my goal, excuse me, I'm sorry, my goal is to get more hosts. I want to, again, book more parties going into June, okay? June, July. So what does that mean? That means that for me, I could set my goal for the end of the month saying that I want to front load and I want to have, we'll just say 3. Well, I want to have 3 parties, or let's just say 2, let's just say 2. Okay. I'll set 3, but just for y'all sake, we'll say 2. I want to have 2 parties in the month of June, right? I'm front loading my calendar for June. Sorry, guys. So what does that look like? That means, again, I want to break down on a week-to-week basis how many, again, reach outs, conversations I need to have in order for you to make sure that I get those 2 people. Okay. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. But breaking it down on a week-to-week basis, because here's the thing. We have to not only break it down in simpler terms on a week-to-week basis, but also, more importantly, we want to set a deadline for ourselves. So, for example, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, is that I will have, okay, let's talk about, if we're wanting to talk to somebody and get parties booked for the next month, right? So let's just say that your goal is that, or I'm sorry, rewind. We're talking about the PRV part. So if you're wanting to reach 500 PRV by the end of this month, one goal that you can set for yourself, that's setting a timeline, setting a goal, is that you will have one party in, like I was saying this earlier, one party in by the 15th. Okay. So that honestly, even as of right now, that's still attainable, believe it or not, because we're only today, if you're watching this video in real time, it's the 7th. Okay. So that means that we still have a whole nother week, which is actually the equivalency of how long a party should run. Definitely no more than a week. Honestly, if we're being honest, couple of days, really. So you still, honestly, in theory, have time to do that. You still have time if you don't, of course, going off of like what your schedule is, but there's still time to make sure that you're getting that in by the 15th. Again, my goal for myself is definitely for me to hit 500 more PRV by the end of the month. So what does that mean? That means to me that I absolutely, no negotiations, I absolutely I have to make sure that I put at least the minimum of 200 PRV in for myself no later than the 15th. But here's the thing. I know that sometimes life is lifing. Things get in the way. Again, we have to pivot. Things come up, things change. So that leads me into number 4. Number 4. We need to track, but we also need to adjust. Check your progress and then adjust. So what does that mean? That means that every couple days, every day, I know for some of y'all, especially newer consultants, that could be like, that's a lot. But every couple days, we really need to take inventory. We need to take accountability of where we're at. What does that mean? That means that every couple days, you need to be logging into your workstation to make sure that you are tracking your sales. If you're not writing it down, if you're not keeping track of it on your phone already, you need to make sure that you're logging into your workstation at least, I would say, minimum like twice a week. Minimum. Because a lot of times I find that if you're not logging into your workstation, if you're not tracking your sales, you maybe perhaps not know where you're at sales wise. And the last thing I want for you as a consultant is to get to a place where maybe you're getting into like that month where it's like, oh, I'm getting really close to canceling as a consultant. And I don't want you to be caught off guard that you haven't hit that goal for yourself that you need to hit. Right? Or maybe perhaps you're working towards an award. Maybe you're working towards, like myself, like annual sales. Or maybe you just recently joined and you're like, I really want to lock in Sensational Start 1 or Sensational Start 2. Or I want to get like my Shining Star Award, or, whatever the case may be. Maybe perhaps even like myself, if you've been with us for at least over a month or two now, we recently started the bingo challenge, right? So maybe you're working on your bingo board. What does that mean? If you're working on your bingo board, and you know what I'm talking about by that, that means that there are other certain goals and products, right, goals that we're needing to knock out the park. So those are goals that we're setting for ourselves to make sure that we're earning those incentives, right? So here's the thing, is that it's important for us to pivot and adjust according to like how our month's looking. So what do I mean by that? That means that by mid-month, if you find that you're ahead of that goal that you're set yourself up for the month, I would say by like the 14th, 15th, if you look at where you're at, whether you're focusing on PRV or whether your focus is on getting people to host parties with you, or booking events, or getting, maybe growing your team, right? Sponsoring more. Whatever your specific goal is, I want you to look at your stats. I want you to look at your progress of where you're at by like the 14th, 15th, and that's truly where you need to reevaluate. So let's just say hypothetically, if you're ahead of your goal, that would mean that you want to obviously celebrate, right? Because, oh my goodness, you have to celebrate yourself, because honestly, at the end of the day, if we don't celebrate ourselves, who will? Who will? I don't know about y'all, but I have to be my biggest cheerleader. I'm going to show up for myself, right? Because in those moments, if I've set a goal for myself to hit a certain goal, at least by the mid-month, I want to celebrate myself, because, woo, some of those goals are hard. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Where we're at with our business, life is lifing, and if you've hit a goal for yourself, no matter what that goal is, because it doesn't matter whose goal is whose, but as we have to, like, if you're setting a goal for yourself, I want you to make sure and check in with yourself and celebrate, because if you've gotten to that halfway mark, that's incredible. That's awesome. And celebrate, but not only celebrate, but maybe push a little bit further. Could you do that? Could you push a little bit further? Because the way I see it is that if you've been able to show up consistently and you're able to plant those seeds in your business, no matter what your goals are for this month, and you're getting to that halfway mark and you've made progress, maybe you're not exactly seeing the results that you thought you did, but if you're being consistent, if you're showing up in your business, if you're doing at least one thing to get you maybe one step further than you were yesterday, that is worth celebrating. That is worth giving yourself recognition over. And I want you to be able to get to a place where you can push a little bit further. Because here's the thing, if you got to where you can hit that 250 minimum PRV, or if you've gotten to where you're like, you know what, I want to sponsor more. I'm at a place where I want to introduce Scentsy to others, and I want to share how much it's done for me, and I want others to have that opportunity, and others to have that excitement, and others to have these blessings. If that's the case, you can take a little bit more step further, right? Because that, for me, is, I honestly get a dopamine fix from that. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, if I set a goal for myself, and let's just say that I've set a goal to have, I don't know, let's just say like 10 conversations this month. 10, not 10 sponsoring 10, but 10 conversations about why Scentsy, what it's done for me, sharing how incredible this business is. If I set a goal for myself by mid-month to have 10 conversations like that, and I'm like, oh, check. Yeah, I'm like, dang, I could have 10. Could I have 10 more? Well, I hope so, because you're only at the middle of the month, and you can only go up from here, right? So why not push yourself a little bit further? Because my thing is that if you can hit these certain milestones and these certain markers, why not see how much further can you go? Because here's the thing is that once you get into a groove, and once you create like this little routine for yourself, and you've got a little bit of a ebb and flow like with your business, and you're like, ooh, this is fun, or oh, you know what, this is what I really enjoy doing about my business that I'm in right now. Keep doing it. Consistency is the magical word here, y'all. If you're being consistent and you're showing up for yourself and you're planting those seeds, those things after a while, just like the everyday self-care that we do for ourselves, right? Like waking up, brushing hell, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I have alarm set to like take a shower, to like, we have several cats, and like two of the cats love eating the other one's food in her bowl, because she's a little bit more of a slower eater. So when they're out playing, I have to have an alarm set for myself that says, take Kirby's food out of her bowl and give her the rest of her breakfast, because the other two get put up for a little bit so that Kirby can finish her breakfast. My God, y'all, I have alarm set for the smallest of things. But here's the thing is that if you were getting into a groove where you have these things that are set up for yourself, whether you're automatically remembering to do them in everyday life, or you have alarms to remind you to do the things, the same thing with your Scentsy business, the same thing with your business. Like, what you're doing, if you're enjoying what you're doing, keep doing it, keep showing up, repetition. Otherwise, if you find that it's the 14th or 15th and you're reevaluating your business and you're doing like a little check-in, and you're like, you know what, I feel like I'm behind. Like, I could be making a little bit more progress than where I'm at now. I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed. I feel like I'm getting behind. It's time to ramp up your efforts and get you closer to your goal. So let's just go back to what we were talking about with like PRV. So for example, I'll walk you through an example of like what it would look like for me. So let's just say hypothetically, it's the beginning of the month, right? And like the first 2 weeks of, again, I was talking about the first 2 weeks of business with me, I'm focusing on maybe perhaps new LTOs that are coming out. I'm focusing on maybe what month are we in? We're in the middle of gifting season, right? So it's May, so that means teacher gifts. That means Mother's Day gifts. That means maybe a lot of schools, I know kids will have like end of the year parties, so anything like that, right? It's a lot of people get married around this time of year. I know a couple of my friends are having baby showers, so it's gift giving season, right? So maybe that's where you want to, get together with maybe some other consultants, or look around on some of the pages that we're active in and start looking for maybe gifting ideas. How can you share, maybe if you don't have it on hand, how can you share pictures that a lot of these talented consultants have otherwise created gifts? How can you share those to your customers, right? How can you serve and show up for them? So typically that's going to be the first week. Also, it's what are maybe the new things that are coming out for the first week of the month? Maybe perhaps you're considering doing like what we call like mystery boxes, or if you're marketing your whip box, things like that, like the newer things. I know right now a lot of my customers are now getting into the groove of they're wanting spring, summer scents, that they're ready to, bring that freshness into their home. So that means cleaning bundles, right? Cleaning buckets, cleaning bundles. That also means, like Scentsy Fresh, laundry products. So things that matter. I'm being very specific, very intentional when it comes to what I'm focusing on for the first to the second week of the month. So then let's just say that for myself, I'm looking at the calendar and it's about to be like the 14th or 15th, and I'm not quite halfway to my goal. I'm not really quite where I would like to be, and I feel a little bit behind. What does that mean? That means that I'm going to pivot and my focus is going to change a little bit more. So that means I'm going to create a little bit more of an urgency to make sure that I'm reaching that end of the month goal. Typically by mid-month, I'm focusing more on, Scentsy has curated themed bundles on their website. So I'm sharing out the curated themes, because here's the thing. I find that a lot of my customers, a lot of Scentsy customers in general, like a good theme. I love a good theme. They like a good theme. What does that mean? That means that when there's a theme, it means that there's less that they have to think about. So if there's products that are already set to that theme, a lot of them are going to love that, because if they love the product in itself, like if they love our wax or they love our pods, odds are if there's a theme involved, they get more excited about it, because a theme, it tells a story. A theme tells a story. So by mid-month, I'm sharing the curated bundles. That also means that I'm focusing on clearance. We have some incredible products, y'all, every single month that Scentsy puts into clearance. That means that I'm letting them know, one-on-one on my customers, letting them know how much they're going to save, how much the original price was, how much it is now. Again, themes can definitely be created. Teacher gifts can be created through clearance. But that's pretty much where I'm at, like mid-month, is creating that sense of urgency, looking at what are the best deals that I can get them. Also focusing on bundles, not only just the theme bundles, but we do have a very simplistic list now of bundles that are included with like wax and warmers. If you're placing orders through your workstation, not the website anymore, but workstation, you can still do the buy 5 get 1 free for the wax bars, right? Or maybe it could be perhaps that you're doing a gift set. So we're getting ready. That was another thing I forgot. Graduations are coming up. So graduation gifts. A really big good one is the wall fan and the pod right now. That's a really good gifting set. Things like that, right? But again, it's making sure that you're setting your goal, right? What is your big goal for the month? How can you break it down on a week-to-week basis? And you absolutely have to have this either on paper, written down where it's in front of you. Like I have it actually right in front of me, like right here, pinned on my board in my office, my goals for the month, broken down on a week-to-week basis. And then what I do is every time I come into my office, and even, I keep saying, like, you don't even have to have like an office space, but in your house, wherever you have this, whether it's on the refrigerator, whether it's like maybe on your bathroom mirror, if it's on your phone, make sure that on a week-to-week basis, if not daily, every couple days, that you're going in and you're subtracting like, That way you're keeping track of your sales, because what I like to do is I have a week goal, right? Week by week for the whole month. Every single week I have a monthly goal, or I'm sorry, I have a weekly goal. So I'll take that weekly PRV goal, and every week I'll check in by the maybe like Thursday, Friday, and I'm like, okay, where am I at now versus where I was at like the week before, and I'm subtracting it out, and that tells me where I'm at and then how much more I need to make that's going to roll over to the next month. Because I want to make sure that by the end of the month, if not hopefully before then, I'm reaching my goal, no matter what that looks like for me. But make sure that you're tracking. Doesn't matter how you're tracking, just as long as you're tracking it. Because here's the thing, is that one thing that I've learned, especially with me being, I have a neurospicy brain, y'all. So I've learned I can't keep everything up here. I have to have things that are either written down or typed up in my phone. Most of the time, both. To make sure that I'm holding myself accountable, that I'm setting reminders and alarms to reach out to certain customers. One thing that I highly recommend before we wrap this up is that if you've been around for a little bit, even for like a couple of months, and you've had at least some orders with customers, or maybe you've reinstated recently as a Scentsy consultant, I highly recommend going into your reports on Workstation. If you don't know how to do that, I know for a fact, I guarantee you that there is some sort of training, either on your Workstation or on YouTube, or if you're with Team Faith and Soul, make sure to reach out to me and I can show you one-on-one. But make sure and go into your reports on Workstation, and you can actually pull reports for not only your customers that are more than likely needing to order and need refill soon, but you can go back, and I'm actually about to do that this week, is I'm going to go back to those that ordered during like the fall, winter time last year, and those that have not ordered yet are definitely the ones that I'm going to follow up with when it comes to sales, when it comes to PRV, because if they bought during like the fall, winter time, more than likely they are at this point going to be interested and wanting to smell the new spring summer fragrances, especially this time of year, because like I said, if you're watching this live, it's May. But yeah, but that's about it. That's summing up, the four, to me, like the four basic minimal key points when it comes to not only setting SMART goals, but breaking it down so it's a little bit more simpler, a little bit more obtainable. But I'm excited for this month. Like I said, the overall theme is goal setting, business organization. We're starting with the basics. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully there was a key takeaway. If you had an aha moment as well, feel free to share it with me one-on-one, or comment on this video. But thank y'all so much for hanging out with me, and until next week, I hope you'll have an incredible day.